All right, here we go. SAT functions review. Shout out to Kay Williams. This one is for you. All right, number one, f of x, x plus 8 over 2. So it says for the function defined above, what is the value of f of negative 2? So, f of negative 2 basically says, hey, whatever's in parentheses there, you're going to substitute, wherever you see an x, you're going to substitute negative 2 in there. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this. F of negative 2 is negative 2 plus 8 divided by 2. And negative 2 plus 8, I do the top first. Well, that's 6. And 6 divided by 2 will give me an answer of positive 3. So f of negative 2 equals 3. So what you can kind of think of this as, this is the x, and this is the y. So the correct answer here would be D. All right, moving right along, number 2. Very similar idea. The SAT just words this one a little bit weird. So I'm going to kind of look at this as like, it's just like number 1. We got to do the f of 2, so we got to plug 2 in. Then we're actually going to have to plug negative 2 in. And then once we get those two answers, we need to add them together. So it's kind of like a double here. So let's just crank this out. So f of 2 would be 2 squared plus 1. And I probably should put that in parentheses. It's a positive, so it's not going to hurt me now, but it might hurt me later. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 1 equals 5. All right, so f of 2 is worth 5. Now we got to figure out what f of negative 2 is. So f of negative 2 means I put a negative 2 in. Be careful that you put parentheses, because if you just type it into your calculator like this, it's going to tell you the answer is negative 4. But that's wrong. All right, I mean, it's right, but it's wrong because we want to do negative 2 times itself, which that's going to be a positive 4 plus 1. So that also equals 5. So, and that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get two different numbers. But finally, it wants to know what 5 plus 5 is. Correct answer there would be 10. All right, moving on to number 3. Now, instead of putting a number in, we're actually going to put the whole expression in. So we're going to put this entire expression here in place of that x. So we're going to yank that x out, and we're going to put in place of the x, x minus 4. And then you don't forget about the minus 2 at the back side. You got to do that. So now we're going to distribute 3x, subtract 12, minus 2. Gather up all your terms here. There's no equal sign, so we're not solving. We're just simplifying. 3x subtract 14. Correct answer would be B. All right. Number 4. Now we have a bigger expression. Same idea. Same thing as number 1. It's just a little more complicated. For f of negative 3, we got to put negative 3 in here. We got to put it in here. And we need to put it in there. So it's just a more complicated expression. So negative 3, definitely when it's a negative, use parentheses. Negative 3 squared minus 3 times, got to replace that x. Then the bottom is negative 3, take away 2. It's that parentheses, not quite as important, but whatever, we'll just do it. So on the top, that's going to be 9 plus 9, because negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9, plus 2, all over a negative 3, take away 2. You could use your calculator, or don't subtract, add the opposite. You get negative 5 down there. So this ends up being 20 divided by a negative 5, which shakes out to be negative 4. All right, number 5. Now we get into this table stuff. And you can think of this table as an x comma y table. So we have x values, we have y values, and you could think of it as they're almost ordered pairs. So basically what we're trying to do is you have a bunch of equations down here, and you can just think of these as y. So this top one, you can just think of it as y equals x plus 4. But the numbers have to go in and they have to work. So all of these numbers up top, every single set, has to work down below. So for instance, if I plug 2 in for x, right here, 2 plus 4 is supposed to be 6. Well, in the table it says when you plug 2 in you get a 12. So I know that that first one cannot work. I know that one's not going to be it. And, you know, I could try another one. If I try the second one, and I just arbitrarily pick 2 and 12. You could pick other ones, but all of these need to work. If I put 2 in there, 2 times 2, well, that's 4 plus 6. Well, that equals 10, not 12. So that doesn't work. If I put 2 in here, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 5 is 11. So that didn't work. Hopefully this one does. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. That one works. And I might want to try a couple other numbers just to see. So maybe we'll go over and maybe I'll try this one. I'll put 0 in for x. And yep, that checks out to be 4. So I think we're okay. So that's one way you can do it, is you can plug the points in. But be careful, you do have to try more than one, because like if you plug this point in, I think I made that one work in all of them. So that one actually worked in all 4 equations. But then when you try another point, it only works in one of them. So that's one way you can do it. Another way you can do it is you can look at slope. The slope is the change in y over the change in x. And so when I look and see what x is happening, well, x is going up by 1. And y is going up by 4. So the change in y was 4. The change in x is 1. So that tells me that the slope is 4. So when you remember the line is y equals mx plus b, slope is what's in front of the x. So I knew the equation was going to be y equals 4x. And this is the only one that was 4x. So I kind of like to use the slope, but it's totally up to you. Next one. This one's kind of a little bit tougher. Because you have this a thing in here. So first of all, they say in the function above, a is a constant. So that just means, hey, a is some number. If f of 2 equals 4, all right, so everywhere where we see an x, we need to put a 2 in. And we know that the entire thing equals 4. So we know that f of 2 equals 5 times 2 plus a. And then they're telling me that that comes out to be 4. That equals 4. So when I start solving this thing, I'm like, all right, well, 10 plus a has to equal 4. So if I kind of do the math here, or actually it was minus a, I'm sorry. That should have been a minus. Minus there, minus there. So if 10 minus a is 4, well, that means that a equals 6, because 10 take away 6 is 4. Now, if a is 6, so I just used this clue in order to find out what a is. But now I have to finish the question. The question is, what is f of 1? So I now need to replace all the x's with a 1. F of 1 is going to equal 5 times 1 plus, well, I now know, or not plus, I don't know why I keep doing that, minus. It says minus a, but I now know what a is. A is 6. So let's see what that equals. Well, 5 take away 6 should be negative 1. So the final answer there is a. So it's kind of a two-part question. Number 7. Another table. So some of the values are shown above, which of the following defines f. So again, you have two options. You know, option number 1 is plug in the x and the y values, plug in the values and see if they work. I'm going to use method 2, which is much faster. I'm going to use the slope. So we're going to look at change in y over change in x. And in my table, it looks like y is changing by 6. X is changing by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So the only equation with the slope of 3 is right there. That's the slope of 3. So the correct answer is C. And if we were to plug points in, they would all work in that one. I think that's just faster than trying to plug values in. But again, it's your world. I just live in it. Number 8, going through here. Some values of the linear function are shown in the table above. What is the value of f of 4? So that means, it's always f of x. So that means, hey, when x equals 4, then y equals what? Well, in our table, we're missing some values here. We have 0, then it skips to 2, then it skips all the way to 5. And here are the numbers that we have. So it might be helpful if we could fill in some gaps. Like if we could fill in what 1 is, what 3 is, what 4 is, because the answer is going to be sitting right here. So let's kind of see what's going on. If we use our slope thing, and I'm like, all right, let's check slope out. I can pick any spot on the table I want. Well, it's going up by 9. Over here, it's going up by 3. So the slope is 9 divided by 3, which is really 3. 3 over 1 you could kind of think of. So if the slope is 3, that means we're going up 3 every time x is going up by 1. So if I go up by 3, that's going to put me at positive 1. Up by 3, up by 3, up by 3. And I find out that the answer there is going to be 10. There's other ways to do it, but I think finding the slope, once you calculate the slope and you simplify it, it tells you how far it jumps for every x. All right, number 9. So we have a f function, we have a g function. Remember, these are just machines cranking out inputs and outputs. So it says f and g are defined above. What is the value of f of 0? All right, so this says, hey, I have to go to the f function right there, and I got to put 0 in. So f of 0 is 3 plus g, well, x is 0. I don't know what g of 0 is, but I have a function here. Let's just put it in. G of 0 is just 0 plus 4, which is 4. So now I know what g of 0 is. It's 4. So f of 0 is just going to come out to be 7. So it's kind of a double function problem. Number 10, this is another one of those A problems where you got to do a step to get A and then plug it back in to get the final answer. So they give me a clue. They say when x is 1, f of 1 is 0. So let's go up here and let's plug 1 in. So when x is 1, I get 1 squared plus 1 times a, which is just a, plus 5. And I clean that up a little bit. And I'm like, all right, f of 1 equals 1 plus a plus 5 is a plus 6. All right? But they tell me that that equals 0. Like they kind of give me, let me write this a little bit different. They kind of already tell me that that expression needs to equal 0. So this a plus 6 needs to equal 0. So it looks like a's got to be negative 6. And so now that's step 1, figure out what a is. Now they're like, all right, tell us what f of 3 is. So f of 3 is 3 squared plus a times 3. So a, which we had over here, times 3, that's the x, plus 5. Well, now we just got to do some math. 9 minus 18 plus 5. I believe that shakes out to be negative 4. Correct answer is B. All right, last one. We got a little bonus action here. So I think this one's kind of easiest to just think about conceptually. We have an F machine. We have a G machine. We don't know what the rule is, but we do know an input matches to an output. So we know that when you put 3 in as an X, a 4 pops out as a y. So put 3 in, 4 pops out. You put 5 in, 6 pops out. So that's this clue. Then we go down and it says, hey, g of 1 is 2. So when you put 1 in, a 2 pops out. When you put a 4 in, a 5 pops out. All right? So that's basically all this craziness, that's all it means. 2 machines, 2 inputs, 2 outputs each. Now, what is the value of, this is called a composite. So instead of saying, hey, you know, stick a number in the F machine, they're like, yeah, but we don't know the number you're going to put in yet. You're actually going to put in whatever the answer to g of 4 is. So it's kind of like you have to start on the inside of the parentheses first. So g of 4, we can see what that is. It's right here. 4, g of 4 was just 5. Now I can put the 5 in the F machine, which was there, and the output ends up being 6. So the correct answer to this problem is 6. All right, hopefully that gets you ready for the real SAT. Hopefully that gets you ready for the SAT quiz we're taking. If you have any questions, send a comment or ask me in class. See you.